Hey, I'm Huntley Ritter, and I brought the Ford F-150 with EcoBoost to Northwest Oklahoma to hunt with Steve Purviance of Mount Hyde Outfitters in the muzzleloader season for giant whitetails.
Behind the unforgettable adventure, behind that trophy of a lifetime, there's an outfitter who makes it all happen. Join our dream team of veteran hunters and anglers crisscrossing North America to find the hardest working men and women in the outdoors. This is The Outfitters.
I was pretty excited when I heard we were going to come to Oklahoma because you hear about them having big bucks here. And being where we are, being in northwest Oklahoma near the Kansas border, it's one of those areas you don't hear a lot about. So getting to link up with Steve, who is probably one of the premier and largest outfitters in the area, it was a great opportunity to really experience Oklahoma and the true quality of bucks that they have. You and I talked a little bit about this, that we hear a ton about Kansas and Texas and Illinois, but you don't really hear a lot about Oklahoma. But you look at a map and as a hunter, you think, wow, there must be big deer there. You just don't, it doesn't get the press.
You're right. Well, it's the same as Kansas. I mean, up here in the northwest corner of the state, as long as you manage your properties and take care of them right, it's the same genetics, the same deer, same food source as southwest Kansas. We have some big bucks. What I like about Oklahoma compared to Kansas is the more liberal hunting season. It's easier to get tags. They're over the counter, to where in Kansas you have to draw. Also, I like the rifle season will be considered peak of the rut. Muzzleloader season right now is what you would consider pre-rut, but the bucks are feeling the does coming into estrus, they're scraping, they're checking does, they know the rut's close, and they become real active, especially this first part of November, which will be the tail end of the muzzleloader season. Oklahoma's archery season starts like most, around October. The 1st of October is when we open. And then towards the end of October, the third weekend typically is when Oklahoma muzzleloader season starts. Well, I think we got all our stuff.
Yep.
And what I love about it is it's the first opportunity at the bucks with a firearm. Now that you can scope muzzleloaders, basically they're a single shot rifle. And a lot of our best bucks come out of that Oklahoma muzzleloader season. Go ahead and shoot at that middle one downrange there.
Okay.
Huntley.
And you hear a lot of different things from different people. I've probably talked to 10 different people who muzzleloader hunt, and they all tell you something different. So, what I really did is I relied on Steve.
Damn, that's close.
Are you kidding me?
Look at that.
How does that bore sight get that close, bud?
Because one, I think he's a very proficient and prolific guide, and he's successful. He muzzleloader hunts himself, and I took his advice.
All right, so Steve, I've shot muzzleloaders, but I've never hunted with one. What do you think? Yes, this is a TC, which is pretty much the industry,
right?
I would say standard, state of the art. What is different about what we're shooting today versus what like the old ones were?
Well, they've just improved it over the years, like like what they do with bows. What they've done with the bows over the years. Same thing with the muzzleloader. You bet. Yeah. Sabots help the accuracy. It just does. I mean, really anymore that you're shooting just basically a rifle bullet.
Yeah. And what do you think as far as rule of thumb, or what do you do at least? Because I know everybody does it different. But as far as how many shots until you actually clean the barrel? Do you just wipe it with a dry patch? How many shots before you?
Well, every gun's a little different. Some people swear that they need to shoot their second round and their third round and their fourth round. That'll be the group. The best rounds. It'll be most accurate after one shot, so they like a fouled barrel. Yeah. I personally like a clean barrel, and then I'll run a wet patch down it and then one dry patch, and then I'll shoot it again. Yeah. Now, if I put it up in the case, I'll go ahead and take it apart, disassemble it, and just clean it. But whenever I'm hunting, I usually take a shot or two, make sure it's on, wet patch, clean patch, and then go hunting.
Okay. Just a little bit to the left. A little low, little left. It's still a kill shot.
Oh no, that's fantastic. Let's leave that alone. Now I will say this, okay, you're already an inch low. At 150 yards, you're gonna be about 5 inches low, okay? Maybe 6, so keep that in mind. At 200, don't get crazy above his back, okay? But you sure wanna put it 2 to 3 inches above his back. We're in the northwestern part of the state, up around Woodward would be the nearest big town, and we're hunting the Cimarron River drainage, which comes in out of Kansas and kind of cuts through the northwestern part of the state down through the central part of the state. And when you get up into this part of the country, that Cimarron River drainage is known for the big whitetail, the big good genetics like they have up in Kansas.
There's not a ton of agriculture around here, and that causes less human interaction and pressure with these deer. Now, sometimes with whitetails, you're hunting them really close to urban environments, because whitetails tend to not really care and live around that, especially sometimes big bucks. But out here, it's a cool area to hunt what you feel pretty wild deer in an area, and you're not right on top of on farms.
Huntley is certainly in the right place at the right time to score his first ever muzzleloader whitetail. Will Lady Luck oblige when the Outfitters returns? The Outfitters is brought to you by the 2013 Ford F-150 with EcoBoost. A new day dawns in Oklahoma's Whitetail-rich Cimarron River Valley.
The way Steve runs his operation is, mornings start meeting about 5:30. Depends on where you're going to travel. We've been traveling anywhere from half an hour to an hour away. And then it's, you get out at an intersection, you put on your gear. He parks you quite a distance away, which I really like. He helps you get into your area in the dark.
Good luck, buddy.
And then he backs off and lets you do your hunt. I'm sort of overzealous about scent and sound and stuff, so I have a little bit of overkill myself, but I think it's needed. And especially if you're really trying to get on big whitetails or species that are spooky, and there's nothing more spooky than a whitetail deer.
We get in an hour before daylight. In case we were to spook anything or push any deer, it lets everything settle down by the time shooting light gets here. Most of the time, the guys will set till 11 or so, maybe get back in at 1 or 2, take a little bit of a break, basically so you don't burn yourself out too bad, and then get back in by 2 or 3. That's typically what we do. Some people prefer to set all day. I encourage it. There's no telling when a big buck might stroll through. So it's kind of at the hunter's discretion.
So we're set up here in a double bowl blind. We're hunting basically on the periphery of a creek bottom. It's a really cool area. What's really crazy is I live in Montana, and you come out a lot of these places, and a lot of times I think, well, I'm not going to find anything more remote than Montana. And not that this is more remote, but it's pretty remote. We're in northern Oklahoma on the Kansas border, and it's pretty interesting how Steve has got these blinds set up and where he has found these areas. And I like that. I really like getting as deep as possible on whatever you're hunting, because you always feel like you're gonna get into animals that aren't pressured a lot, and a lot of mature animals will live back there. So it's kind of exciting to have that opportunity, not always be hunting so close to human population.
The morning hunt comes to a close as stiff, swirly winds stir Huntley's scent across the prairie, alerting deer to his presence. The cozy confines of the truck's cab can't come quick enough.
Man, it's getting cold out there.
Climate.
Climate.
Temperature 75.
75. Is that right?
Yes.
Riding around with Steve, he had mentioned that he does his own taxidermy, which I thought was pretty cool. And so we ran by his house, and he said, yeah, if you want to see some of the mounts, I got a little trophy room. Oh my gosh. I thought it was just a few deer head. Oh my Lord.
Well, it's been many years in the making.
I mean, I heard they were like, oh yeah, he's got his bedroom's become the trophy room.
Yeah.
Wow. Your wife should get like the Congressional Medal of Honor. This is insane. I mean, some people, you'd be fortunate to get just one in your lifetime.
Well, this is what I've lived for many years, was hunting big whitetail deer.
Yeah.
You want to see some pictures of what we're going to be looking at?
Yeah, let's see them. Yeah, so Steve's figured out his pattern that works. And one is he has a very good instinct on identifying the properties, which is your first step. So how many cameras are you running out there?
We have about 55 cameras total. Now they're scattered all over several states, and then when we get in this time of year, they're really scattered. I would say in Oklahoma here, we've probably got 20 cameras out. Here's some pictures. You know that blind I was telling you about tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, the wind's finally turned, and we ought to be able to get into it. All right, here's a nice 8-point. Now there's the the crab claw deer that I was telling you about. Broad daylight, 10:09 in the morning.
Yeah.
Really nice, mature 5-6-year-old buck.
Yeah, you got tremendous deer up here. Man,
Those are incredible.
Big 8. There's the, I guess you can call him a J-hook buck there.
There's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many nice deer. It's crazy.
Yeah,
That's a
dandy.
really nice deer.
But this is the old boy that we're going to be after tonight. And there's others in there that are dang nice. But this is the buck that I'd like to see roll in there.
Yeah.
So we were coming down here on this hunt, you know, looking at which Ford truck to bring to Steve would fit his operation really well, and definitely the Ford F-150 with the EcoBoost is what he needs, because Steve has a big operation. It's a pretty big business. He's got lots of clients. He needs a truck that's comfortable, and he needs a truck that's efficient. He is driving from Oklahoma to Kansas to Texas to Nebraska, and he drives an insane amount, and he spends a fortune in fuel. So his biggest thing that he needs is he needs a truck that is going to be strong and durable, that can pull loads when he needs it, he can carry clients comfortably, but more importantly, it's going to be really efficient on gas.
So Steve, you've been driving this all week now. Have you found a favorite feature?
Well, my favorite feature is how I can use my SD cards straight out of my game cameras and view them right here in the truck. I mean, how can you beat that? I'm constantly looking at pictures. A truck is important to me because it's my office 3 or 4 months of the year. That's when I put on most of my miles. I'll put on 50,000 a year. Most of that's for the 3 or 4 month period. So it's got to be dependable, it's got to be comfortable, and really, if you look at it from a business standpoint, fuel economy is very important.
Strong winds rip across the Oklahoma landscape as outfitter Steve Purviance drives to an afternoon stand where Huntley Ritter hopes to take his first ever muzzleloader whitetail.
So it's pretty impressive how big an operation you have, and it's always interesting to me, you know, when I meet an outfitter like yourself who's got such a vast operation, but also high success rates, great animals, you know, well run. How did you get here? I mean, how did you get into this and grow it to be this big?
Well, I grew up in a hunting family. I mean, as early as I could shoot a gun, I was shooting a gun. As early as I could go hunting, I got to go hunting. And I was just addicted to it. It was a passion. It was all I thought about. It was all I dreamed about at night. I mean, that's all I wanted to do was hunt. Luckily for me, my granddad had been game warden out in this area for 32 years. And he had a lot of connections, a lot of landowners and places that we could hunt. You know, back then you didn't lease land. You got permission and you treated the landowners right. It wasn't like it is today. And I was brought up, taught how to treat a landowner, how you respect his land, and doing that, in turn, you got to have hunting rights and enjoy a lot of that in a lot of the best areas in our country. You know, I grew up right here.
You grew up hunting.
Yeah.
And then how did you transition into guiding and outfitting?
Well, I graduated in '94 at Northwestern Oklahoma State with a degree in wildlife conservation, law enforcement. And I don't even know that I was really wanting to be a game warden, but that's really the degree you needed for that. But right out of college, I got a job up in Alaska, commercial salmon fishing, and I spent 4 summers up there. I could make enough money in the 3 or 4 months I was up there to come home and just hunt all year. And then I'd run out of money and I'd go back. But that market's just like farming or anything else, to where it fluctuates, it's up and down, has its highs and lows, and by the 4th year I wasn't making enough to survive half the year, much less the entire year, so I knew I had to do something else.
And most of those bucks have been coming out of this really thick river stuff, jumping the fence, and they've been strolling right through that grass that's along the edge of that
So
fence.
right to left?
Yes, most of the time.
All right, so I'm gonna sit on the right.
And whitetail deer have always drove me nutty. I mean, the passion I had for hunting big whitetail deer is what's empowered me my whole career. I decided to start leasing land, and I thought, you know, I can get a few hunters to help me lease this land. My brother, my dad, and I can have some excellent hunting, and they can help me pay for it. And it just evolved into this. People started wanting to hunt with us, and it just grew. The money was just, to me, more money to go get more better land. That's all it was. I just put it back in the business and put it back in the business for so long that it's grown into what it is. Now we're in our 16th year and it's rolling.
So we just had a little buck come in. It's just before 4 p.m. It's hot, sunny, it's really windy. The buck is real skittish, probably for 2 reasons. One, it's really windy. I think, you know, the wind puts these deer on edge. Also, I looked at Steve's pictures. He pulled off his trail cam, and he's got some pretty big bucks that have been coming into this area. And the way that buck was looking around, I mean, the wind played a part, but the way he was looking around really, I think, had a lot to do with this big buck that's trolling it here. So that's a good sign. I'm hoping as this wind dies down in the evening here, this big guy's gonna come in, and we've got about a 110-yard shot. It should be perfect.
One of the great things about hunting that I love is I love just being in the woods and being outside and some of the cool things you see. And one day when it was a little bit slow in the evening, had a had a doe come out and then had some coyotes come out. It was funny watching them both, and all of a sudden coyote and doe come face to face. Then another coyote shows up and then turns into a chase. So hunting is just not about the kill. It's about being in nature and everything you see and you learn. Every time you go out there, you always learn. I think there's a lot for us to learn in the wild. Evening's coming on, and a doe came out. So that looked promising. I'm glassing, watching downriver, upriver, and seeing something's got to come in. Oh, nice buck coming out the same spot. And we're literally down to about, I would say 30 minutes before it's over. And I catch movement out of my left eye, throw my glasses up, and there's a nice buck coming in. And so I start ranging him, because I'm thinking, I don't feel comfortable, anything past probably 185 yards. My first year of the muzzleloader, I haven't gotten to shoot the muzzleloader as much as I would like to. Buck comes in, stops, starts to feed, perfectly broadside. All I could really tell when I threw my glasses up was he was outside the ears. He looked like a nice mature deer. I didn't study the rack. I was more focused on, was he a shooter buck? He was outside the ears. He looked like a mature deer. I just kind of go off, does it excite me or not? And he definitely got me excited.
Well, back whenever I was a little kid, I grew up with a passion for hunting deer. Big antlers were my passion. That's the way I grew up. And I started this business increasing my hunting opportunities, and it grew into what it is now. It's a business that I've done now for 16 years, and I wouldn't have it any other way. The best part to me is meeting everybody. I never expected it to happen like it has, but I've made some fantastic friends from all over the United States. Friendships that'll last forever.
Steve puts Huntley in a promising blind. Where one sees a doe, a buck is likely to be hot on her trail.
Oh yeah, he's good. He's outside the ears. He's definitely a shooter.
It never gets old, and that's what I love about hunting. And especially when you have a big whitetail come out, your heart gets going. You got to remind yourself, take a deep breath, let it out, steady. I put it on him just below his back, because my gun was shooting just a little bit low at 100 yards. Fired it off, and when you shoot these muzzleloaders, even the new inlines, you're gonna get a bunch of white smoke. That's where the wind came in nicely, because it blew it out of the way. We see the deer running off. My first reaction was like, did I miss him? Because I don't see any blood off the left side, but I was shooting him on his right side. And then he went up the hill, and I stopped, and then he went down. And even though we saw him go down, immediately I'm thinking, I gotta reload, right? So I wanna watch him where I saw him last. I'm going to reload, which was a little bit of a debacle. And it was like, I was using my, I guess it's seated, shooting sticks to push the rod down, but whatever. I finally got it. Thankfully, it was a good shot. I need to get flagging tape. Because he could have run to Kansas by the time I got reloaded. So anyway, it was getting close to dark. First thing I want to do is I want to get down there, and I want to make sure that when it looked like he went down, that he really did go down, and he hasn't gotten back off into that river bottom, so I could at least find blood and flag it. Now, where I thought I saw him go up and drop, I went there and I thought for sure he'd be laying right there, and he wasn't there. So there was a little bit of a moment of like, oh no. And I thought, wait, he's got to be up here. I swear he went down. So I just went a little bit, about 20 yards to the left, and I saw antlers. He was He was already dead.
Here he is.
Yeah, I got pretty excited.
Holy cow, this thing is a huge buck. Look at this. Check this thing out.
Of course, I was pulling back in the ranch, and for the most part, I didn't hear the shot. I thought the hunt was probably over for the evening.
That is a nice buck.
But right before I got on the ranch, I got a call, and it was from Huntley, and he said, man, I've got a great buck down.
You know, I'm very new to the muzzleloader deal. Mostly a bow hunter. I do rifle hunt, and I was a little nervous with this thing. He was just over 100 yards, but man, did that work. Man, did that work.
Oh, here comes Steve. It's always good when you get a deer down where the truck can get.
Oh, awesome. Oh, yeah, Huntley. That's a nice one, bud.
It's a good buck, huh?
Very nice.
My first muzzleloader kill.
Oh, he's a dandy.
When he came out, I was like, I didn't even really think twice about it. I was just like,
oh, yeah. He's a big 4-year-old. Big 4-year-old 8-point. Nothing wrong with him at all.
I'm thrilled. I appreciate you having me out here.
You bet.
This was
I
great.
enjoyed it, Huntley.
I think Steve is a really good outfitter. One, I would say he's an expert. He's a fanatic about whitetails, and he's been doing it since he was a kid. And he knows what he knows. He knows what he knows very well. He's got a tremendous amount of land. He's got about 100,000 acres between all the states that he leases. He does a really good job as far as he's very cautious, from what I can see, on not over hunting the properties, not taking too many deer off certain properties. He rotates the hunters through and he rests areas correctly. And so I think he does a really good job at balancing that out and giving you an opportunity to at least see some deer and possibly get a shot.